Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Creative Academy, your go-to source for accountability, coaching, and community for writers. I'm Crystal Stranaghan, and today we're chatting about podcasting with author Jo-Ann Carson, who is also the host of the podcast Blood, Sweat, and Words, which is a fabulous title. Welcome, Jo-Ann.
I'm so happy to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Well, we're excited to pick your brains and learn all we can about podcasting.
All right.
I'm hoping, though, first, if you could just start with an introduction for any of our listeners, watchers out there who have not come across you, your podcast, or your books. If you can give us the 5-minute tour.
Well, I'm an indie writer and a publisher like many of you, and I've been at it for about 7 years since I retired from teaching. I have an English degree and a master's in education, and I love playing with words. I love telling stories. So this is a really nice time in my life because I get to do all that. And podcasting is really exciting because you get to combine technology, which I'm pretty good at, with creativity, with communication. So that's what I'm playing with right now. But yes, I'm a writer, mostly paranormal mystery and romance, as well as I'm a blogger and now a podcaster.
Excellent.
And my latest thing is I'm writing a book called Podcasting for Authors, because I think we should all be doing this, and I would love to share your podcasts.
Awesome. We are all in on that. We are anxiously awaiting that because our podcast is going to be starting up in the new year. So we're hanging on until we can benefit from all your wisdom. But I'm curious, what was it that led you to start a podcast? I mean, a lot of authors are kind of introverts and they spend a lot of quiet time at home. What was the motivation behind that?
Well, I am an introvert and I like being at home, but podcasting is okay with introverts because I usually talk to a blank screen, and I'm just getting to talk and getting to know other authors better. And that's wonderful. That's something I really like in my life. And I chose it as a side gig that hopefully someday will make money, but also it's just a really neat communication device.
All right. And for authors who are out there thinking about maybe they would be interested in doing something like that, what do you think you could justify as the practical value of having a podcast of your own?
Yeah, when you say practical value, I have to kind of laugh because I'm not good at the practical. I really love the creativity of it, but practical, it is content marketing, and that's the big thing to do right now. Putting your own content out there and getting to be known for content other than your writing brings attention back to you, and that's all good. And that's the practical side of it. But the reality is it takes time and hard work. Joanna Penn, who I admire the heck out of, she was at it for 5 years before she turned a profit. So I don't want to mislead anyone. It takes a lot of work and it takes time, but it's a lot of fun getting to know people.
And I would imagine it is good, like as you said, for content marketing. So for growing an audience, helping people who might not stumble across your books necessarily through the regular channels. That's another way. And I would think it opens up some opportunities as well that, people find you who might not find you otherwise. As an author, that they might then say, invite you to do a video interview, for example, things like that.
Yes, absolutely. Like I'm definitely getting to know you better. And that's all wonderful. And it's also a way of giving back. There's been so many writers who've helped me out. And now I get to give back to my community by sharing the people I know and the people I'm getting to know and their ideas. It's really exciting when you share ideas. Like I had an interview with Mary Buckham that just really expanded my view of how to learn in this business. And I'm really excited to share that with people. And similarly, when I talked to Suzanne Tisdale, she's just amazing. She talked for 1 hour and 10 minutes and a captivating speaker as well as a good author. And I learned so much, and it was neat to give that to my friends. And that's what I consider my audience, my friends.
Nice. And what do you wish you had known when you started out? Is there anything you would go back and tell yourself? Okay.
Well, in a sense, I wish I'd known how much work it is. It's really filling up my days. But in another sense, if I'd known, I don't know that I would have jumped. And I think it's been really good for me to make that jump. It means a little less time. Well, I don't know if it's less time writing. I just compact my writing time. Okay, I've got 2 hours. I've got to write right now. It's it's just different. I had more time. It was more leisurely before.
Right. So it's forcing some efficiency into your schedule.
It is. Yeah. There's nothing like a whip. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, they do say if you need a thing done, ask a busy person because they know how to schedule it in. And I do believe that that's a true statement. So,
Absolutely. And
yeah.
it's fun stuff. Yeah.
And what do you think if somebody's thinking about this, what are the pieces of equipment that you now find you could not do without? Are there any particular tools?
There's three main pieces of equipment. You have to have a computer of some sort, but that could be just your cell phone. There are people who do whole podcasts with just a cell phone. Then you need a good set of earphones and a microphone. Now you can use the microphone on your cell phone or on your computer, and it just, when you upgrade any of these three devices, it increases the quality. But the audience, you need to know your audience and how much do they really care if someone says a lot or if there's a little bit of background sound. Most of the time not. And the experts in the field will tell you again and again, it's not the quality of your equipment that makes your podcast sell. It's the motivation behind you, the clearness of your message, and the heart that you put into it. That's what's going to make your podcast appealing. Yeah,
that person. I mean, really, we're hearing from you. We're hearing about your values. It's, I think, a lot like personal branding for books is, you're connecting with your audience as an author, not just through a story. So that's really important. What is your type of microphone that you're using, if we can ask?
I just upgraded to a Sony MDR 7506. And it's not new on the block at all. There are many sites out there that will show you what's the newest and the latest, but I wanted this one because it's known in the community as a really reliable, good microphone at a reasonable price. And it makes all the difference. The sound quality is amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. I have a Blue Yeti, which is also another very popular one.
And that's my Blue Yeti.
Oh, and you got the Snowball. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, and it is a nice entry level as far as microphones go, not crazy expensive, but it does give you a lot of options as far as, we live in a loud apartment building in the middle of a noisy city. So if you can have it only catching your voice from one direction and not the background sound, then yeah, it does give you a really good boost kind of straight out of the gate, which is awesome.
Yeah, and so you don't need a sound group at all. And you can manage on a few devices. And if things are really rough, like it's really noisy, they tell you to put a blanket over your head like they did in the Second World War. And it gives you your own little sound space. But it's really quite easy with modern technology.
Yeah. And you know what, for anybody who maybe doesn't even have access to, say, a computer or anything to work with, the Vancouver Public Library has multiple recording studios that you can go into for free. You go online, you book them with your library card. They have all of the equipment, and you can book them, I think, for 3 hours at a time. So you could actually go in and record, 4 or 5 episodes of something if you were careful with your scheduling, and you can book them several weeks in advance. So you really could go in and schedule it all and not ever have to own a single piece of that equipment. So
what a great way to get started.
Yeah, so that's a really cool resource, and I expect we're not the only library that.
Oh, I'm going to check ours out. That's really exciting.
Yeah. And if they don't have one, make a suggestion. The library has fun stuff, and so it's always good to let them know what people are looking for.
And even if you're not podcasting, lately I've been using the Wave technology to create ads that have voice in them, and so having a sound studio is great.
Yeah, absolutely. So what is the biggest mistake you think that either you made or that anybody who's new to this might be possibly stepping into?
Well, I'm learning that, and I've done a lot of reading on it, and I've heard it a million times. You pick your goal, you pick your focus, your audience. It's just like in writing, you niche it down to as small an audience as possible, and you nail what they want. My biggest mistake was going a little off, thinking that, this is writing related, but it wasn't right on target, and it kicked me in the butt. So I've learned it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good advice. The smaller the niche, the possible.
That's right.
Stay right on your targets. Okay.
Because when you try to please everyone, you please no one. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And how do you think people are finding you in the sea of other podcasts that are out there?
Well, it's actually the gold rush time of podcasts. You know how there was a gold rush for indie writers for, what was it, 2012 to 2014, something like that? Well, now is the gold rush for podcasters, according to all the statistics. So statistically, we have a good chance of showing up, but you have to get your name out there, and it's hard. I'm growing slowly, and I really like that because as I'm growing, I'm learning things. There's so much to learn about. For me, a lot of it's confidence, because if I'm nervous, it shows in my voice, and that deters from my product. And so I'm learning as I go, and I figure as I get more confident and more capable, then I'll have a steady, good audience. I have an audience, and they're very faithful and loyal, and I love them, and I see it growing.
Absolutely. So how much time do you think it takes you to go from figuring out who to invite, inviting a person, coming up with questions, doing the interview, all the way through to the upload stage? How much time do you figure you put into each episode?
It's really hard for me at this point to figure out how much time per episode. My plan is, because of everything I've read, I contact people 3 months ahead. 1 month ahead, I record, and then a week ahead, I add my intro and my outro and any notes I want to say about myself that are sort of very current. And so, oh my goodness, how much time does it take? It takes different times because some people are easy to reach, some people aren't. Um, I can't judge it now. Joanna Penn says something like 5.5 hours per episode, but I'm sure she must have a sea of people helping her on little tedious things, because it does take more time than you would think, because there's a lot of emails going back and forth. There's a lot of creating the post. And then there's technological problems because I don't have a high great level system. I get problems. Yeah.
Yeah, there's always little stuff for sure. No matter how
Yeah,
well ironed out your system is, it involves other
absolutely.
people and other people's technology, and there's always room for random things to go awry when you're least expecting it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So one of the things a lot of people do, I know, is they record like the body of the podcast, and they'll do a whole bunch kind of in a batch close together, and then they record the intro outro stuff, as you said, at a different time that's closer to when it's being released. Is that something you're doing, out of curiosity, and how are you finding that?
Well, it's fun. The intros and outros are fun. I have one solid intro at the moment, and they say to use 3 sentences no more in your intro, and I agree. It keeps it very simple, and then you're into the episode. The outros, I have about 6 recorded, and I'd like to record more. The idea with the outros is to have a different CTA, a different call to action for each one. Like one time it might be come join my newsletter, another time it might be come read my book. And then I also add in what we call a segment of how I'm doing sometimes. But the reality is, I'm so busy, I have been relying on what's recorded, and I need to go back and fix those up a bit because they're fun. It's fun to do that.
Nice.
Yeah.
Excellent. And I think I always find it really interesting when I'm listening to podcasts. I usually have a couple a day when I'm on my walks, and I find it's very interesting to hear what the people are up to. You know, as much as I want to hear from the experts, I also really do want to find out what's going on in the world of the person that I'm actually listening to their podcast.
Absolutely.
And often it's those little snippets of interesting things that get dropped into the conversation that, oh, okay, well, that was worth listening just for that. And you don't really realize how much value I think there is in those if you're the person who's doing it. I think it's easy to underestimate the value of your own contribution to what you're working on.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. And so how do you find people to interview or to
Well,
be
it's
guests?
funny. I remember being really scared in the summer before I started in September, and I was really scared in the summer. How was I going to find people? And I said that to you. I just met you, and you said, "Oh, don't worry, they'll find you." And honestly, you're right. They do find me. I've also been at a few conferences, and I ask people I've met at conferences because they're a little bit outside my normal circle. So I'm bringing people in. And then tomorrow I am interviewing Kevin Tomlinson, and I'm thrilled. I heard him on. Have you listened to Smarty Pants Book Marketing? It's an incredible half-hour podcast, and he had a very good podcast on there. And I thought, oh, I want to talk to him, and I phoned him up, and or well, I didn't phone him up. I emailed Draft to Digital, and sure enough, they connected me to him, and it was a done deal. It was just really easy. Well, I say that I haven't had the interview yet, but I've spent I read one of his books. I've listened to several podcasts. I've spent many hours researching this one. Yeah.
Nice. And so have you ever had issues or concerns around people being offended by the content? I know, like, talking to live people, there's always that element, like, what do you do if a guest, drops an F-bomb or something in the middle of your podcast? How do you handle that?
How do you do it? Well, when you set up your podcast, they will ask you what your rating is. It's similar to movies. And I went for G because I thought that fit me better. And no one has swore yet, but I can edit it out. I use Audacity, and it's easy to edit. And I don't have those kinds of conversations. Content, however, could insult some people. But so far, I haven't had that feedback, touch wood. Yeah.
All right. So far, so good. I would think, it really does depend on your topic for your podcast and what audience you're focusing in on. But it is, it's even in writing, even in a lot of areas like YA right now is super contentious. There's a lot of issues around sensitivity in various pools that we swim in. And so that's always a bit of a challenge, is sort of not being aware of how aware the other people on the other side of the microphone are, I think. But as you said, there is some room if you are pre-recording, which is very smart. And if you're pre-recording in advance of when it's supposed to be releasing, that also gives you, I would imagine, a little bit more time, that if something did happen, you would have some room to edit, adjust, talk to the person so that they understand why that adjustment was maybe made before the interview goes live, as well. Would be a smart person would make a bit of a buffer for themselves in their schedule, I think.
Yeah, no, you're a good people person. That's exactly what it's like. And it depends, again, on your topic. If I had a hot political topic, it would be very different. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So we are actually going to tackle a podcast in the new year for the Creative Academy.
Fantastic.
That is on our list of things. We've been pondering, collecting, planning for about a year and a half now, so we're pretty sure we're ready. So what would be your top 3 pieces of advice to us as we launch into this next little bit of adventure? It could be more than 3 if you have more than 3.
Okay. I think it's something actually you've said to me about writing, is that knowing your special sauce, knowing who you are and what you're adding, what value you're giving to the world, that is the most important thing. And that trumps everything. Other than that, knowing who your audience is, of course, just like writing, and knowing what their needs are and addressing those needs. It's so similar to writing, and that's why I wrote the book, is that I think authors are natural to be podcasters, and yet most podcasters are men, and most of them are in business. They're, some people call them entrepreneur dudes, and they have a very different voice. It's a very salesman. They're selling, and that's not what my podcast is about. I don't think it's what yours is about, because you're so much into education, and so we offer the world a different voice.
We do. So I have 2 more follow-up questions now that just came out of that. One of them is, I know there's a software that you use to actually handle the distribution piece. So once you've made a podcast, what do you do with it? So yeah, if you could maybe just tell a little bit about that and give people somewhere to start in terms of what they're looking for, that would be super helpful.
Okay. I have the triad from hell, I call it. I don't know that I recommend it, but I did all that research, and what I came up with was as inexpensive a system as I could. I record on Skype, which most people understand, so that's easy. Zoom I probably will move to at some point, but at the moment I record on Skype, and then I edit on Audacity. And that requires it's about a $30 software called Ecamm Recorder that takes the Skype call and gives it to Audacity. And then I send it to my website, which is, my website is with WordPress, but it's linked to, it's hosted by GoDaddy because WordPress can't hold a podcast on its own. It's not strong enough. So you need a hosting service, which I have GoDaddy for. And then that is then podcast hosted by Blubrry. Now, the two big ones are Blubrry and Lisbon. I went with Blubrry partly because I like the name, but also they have great videos that help you along. But there are all-in-one solutions now, which are only a little bit more than what I'm spending per month.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So it sounds like a little bit of homework is required for those thinking about this to make sure they find the correct combination of tools before they launch out in that. And we also need to know, where do people find your podcast if they want to go listen to Blood, Sweat, and Words?
Okay. It's https www.bloodsweatandwords.com. And my podcast is on all the other places. Spotify.
iTunes. Yeah, iTunes is where I listen. So
iTunes, yeah, and it's in all those places, and all the how does CBC put it? All the regular places you listen to your podcasts, it's there, and that's the beauty of the Blubrry plugin system with WordPress. Is it automatically? I hit a button and it goes out, shoots out to all those places without any effort.
Awesome. That's great. Well, we will be looking forward to your book. And as soon as it is available, we'll make sure that the link to buy that book is in the notes below this video, both on YouTube and in our Creative Academy space. So if you're watching this in the future, look for Jo-Ann's book.
And it's called Podcasting for Authors, 5 Steps to Success.
Perfect. And now, is it Jo-Ann Carson it's under?
Oh, yes. Did I say Terpstra?
No, but your name on the screen says Terpstra. Just noticed. That's all good. But go looking for Jo-Ann Carson and the guide for authors who are doing podcasting. I will make sure the name and the link are in the footer below this video. So thank you so much, Jo-Ann, for taking time out of your busy schedule. And it is a pleasure to be chatting with you. So we look forward to hearing your 5-year update when you can chime in just like Jo-Ann and tell us all about your great financial success from your podcast.
Oh, I'm waiting for that too. Thank you so much. It's been a great pleasure to be a guest.
So glad you enjoyed it. All right, everybody, have a great day and get back to your writing.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you for being a part of this Creative Academy event. If you're not a member yet, join us today and unlock a wealth of resources, masterclasses, feedback opportunities, and online community events designed to help you reach the next step in your writing journey. No matter what stage you're at, we've got a helping hand to guide you along the way. Check out our free resource room if you'd like to get a taste of how we can help you reach your writing and publishing goals. Thank you for bringing us along on your writing and publishing journey, and Donna, Eileen, and I hope we'll see you around the Creative Academy soon.